The courthouse doors pushed back harder than I expected, like they knew exactly what waited for me inside. I stepped through, trying to smooth the wrinkles in the one decent suit I owned. Mom spotted me first. Marisol Rowe's lips tightened before she leaned toward Dad. Calvin did not even pretend to whisper. He just rolled his eyes. Evan sat beside them, phone in hand, scrolling without looking up. When he finally noticed me, he smirked. "Nice suit." He muttered, "Did you borrow it? I can hear you," I said, setting my worn briefcase on the table reserved for the respondent. "That is the problem," he shot back. Adrian Keene, their attorney, lifted his chin in greeting like we were old friends. "Sienna, I trust you received the petition. It is best for everyone if you cooperate." Mom folded her hands, voice dripping with practiced disappointment. "You should not make this harder. We are trying to protect you." I met her eyes. By taking everything Grandpa left me, Dad exhaled sharply, the kind of breath meant to silence a room. "You always twist things. This is what a responsible family does." I opened my briefcase, letting the folders settle into place. Their confidence hovered like a fog, thick and smug. The bailiff stepped forward, calling everyone to rise as the judge entered. I stood with them, pulse steady. If you have ever been underestimated by your own family, stay with me. This part matters. Growing up in the row house meant learning early who mattered and who did not. Evan was the one worth investing in. I was the one expected to stay out of the way. I still remember Mom waving acceptance letters in Evan's face like trophies. "Private school will shape his future," she said. "Opportunities like this do not come twice." When I asked if I could apply anywhere besides community college, Dad barely looked up. "We cannot finance every whim. Sienna, be practical." Evan grinned at me from across the room. "Community college is fine. Some people just peak earlier than others." I worked nights to keep up with tuition, while I stocked shelves at a co-working space. Evan sent home photos from California new friends, new clothes, a new electric scooter Dad called a necessary expense. Grandpa was the only one who noticed. He showed up to my associate's degree ceremony alone, holding a small bouquet he pretended he picked up by accident. "I am proud of you, kiddo," he said. "You do not get things handed to you. That is going to matter someday." At lunch afterward, he slid a worn folder across the table. "Start keeping records. Every document, every email, paper trails protect the people no one protects." I laughed then, but he did not. He placed his hand over mine, steady and warm. "Trust me, Sienna. One day you will need them." I did not understand why his voice trembled until much later. The lawyer read Grandpa's will in a calm, steady voice, but every sentence felt like a tremor under the floor. Evan leaned back in his chair, confident, already imagining the payout he thought he deserved. When the attorney finally said, "The mountain cabin in Summit County is designated to Evan Rowe," Evan shot me a smug look. "Expected," he whispered. Mom squeezed his hand. Dad nodded, satisfied. Then the attorney continued. "The retirement accounts, totaling approximately $310,000, are left to Marisol and Calvin Rowe." Mom lifted her chin like the universe had confirmed her worth. "And the education endowment," he said, pausing just long enough for the room to tighten. "Seeded 18 years ago, now valued at approximately $1,450,000, goes to Sienna Rowe." The air snapped. Mom's smile vanished. Dad's eyebrows pulled together in a sharp line. Evan sat forward so fast his chair scratched the floor. "That cannot be right," Mom said. "He wanted unity." Dad added, "He would never divide assets like that." The attorney slid a copy of the will across the table. "It is exactly as Mr. Leonard Rowe instructed." Evan glared at me. "You manipulated him. You were barely around. I was with him more than any of you," I said quietly. A week later, they summoned me to the house. Their attorney, Adrian Keene sat waiting with a folder. Mom gestured toward it. "We have drafted a unified family investment agreement. It keeps everything aligned." Adrian folded his hands. "You transfer control of your endowment into a shared account. Your family will provide you a monthly stipend for stability," Dad added. $2,400 each month. More than enough. I looked at all of them. "No." Calvin's voice hardened. "Then we will do this the hard way." 72 hours after I walked out of their house, a sharp knock rattled my apartment door. A process server handed me a thick envelope and asked for my signature. His voice was polite, almost apologetic. Mine shook when I thanked him. Inside was a petition for conservatorship. Financially incompetent. The document read, "Impulsive spending, poor judgment, emotional instability, all lies, all notarized, all filed with the court." My phone buzzed before I could breathe. It was HR. "Can you come in this afternoon?" my supervisor asked, her tone too careful. In her office, she slid a printed record across the desk. "This is now public. Because you work in financial compliance, we need to place you on paid administrative leave until this is resolved. This is a family dispute," I said. "And it is not true." "I understand," she replied, though her eyes softened only for a moment. "But policy is policy." Outside, the winter air burned. I walked to my car slowly, trying to steady myself, but another notification chimed, then another, and another. Evan had posted a picture of him with Grandpa, both smiling at a Christmas dinner years ago. The caption read, "Honoring Grandpa's true wishes." Family over greed, comments poured in. She always seemed off. Money changes people. Praying for your family. I shut off my phone, but the words stayed loud. Back in my apartment, Denver glowing cold outside my window. I sat on the floor with the petition spread in front of me, the signatures, the accusations, the betrayal, every part of it pressed against my chest. They were not protecting me. They were erasing me. I pulled Grandpa's old binder from the back of my closet, the one he pressed into my hands years ago with a seriousness I never understood. The leather cover was worn, edges softened from his fingerprints. I opened it on the kitchen floor, still shaking from the petition, page after page. His handwriting appeared in the margins, dates, reminders, quiet warnings. When I reached the trust section, a tab stuck out slightly, bent like it had been marked long ago. I turned to it. Section 14, Conditional Inheritance Clause. I read it once, then again, slower. Any beneficiary who knowingly attempts to seize another beneficiary's designated share without medical or legal evidence of incapacity, and who acts in bad faith, forfeits their own portion immediately. A note in Grandpa's handwriting rested beside it. "If they confuse control for love, protect yourself." My breath stilled. My throat tightened. It felt like he was in the room with me, pushing that binder into my hands all over again. I grabbed my phone and called Jonah Reese, one of the few people from law school who had stayed in touch. He answered on the second ring. "Sienna, you sound not okay. I need you to look at something," I said, reading the clause aloud. When I finished, he let out a low exhale. "That is real and enforceable. But you will have to prove they acted maliciously, not mistakenly. They threatened me before they filed anything. Then start gathering everything. Messages, emails, dates. Build your timeline." I nodded even though he could not see me. "Sienna," Jonah added softly. He left that for a reason. The line went quiet, but the words stayed. 2 days later, Adrian Keene emailed an amended exhibit for the court. I opened the attachment, expecting another stretch of creative fiction. What I found stopped me cold. A supposed unified oversight amendment, allegedly signed by Grandpa 4 years earlier. The signature looked stiff, too perfect. The notary seal belonged to a woman who had retired 8 years before the date shown. The paper number at the bottom indicated a stock manufactured in the year 2023. I forwarded everything to Alvin Mercer, the retired notary whose name appeared on the original trust documents. He called within an hour. "I did not notarize that," he said. "Whoever did tried to copy my seal." "Poorly. Can you put that in writing?" I asked. "I already have. Check your inbox." The truth settled like a weight behind my ribs. Later that evening, I dug into public records property filings, business registries, lawsuits. One link led to another until the pattern became inescapable. Evan's startup had dissolved with a judgment of over $410,000. My parents' house in Aurora sat in pre-foreclosure for more than $560,000. Their retirement accounts had been liquidated after a margin call during the last market dip. They were drowning. A knock hit my door hard and fast. When I opened it, Mom stood there, breath visible in the cold hallway. "You are tearing this family apart," she said, stepping inside uninvited. "If you loved us, you would end this. Leonard left you that money out of pity." I stared at her, feeling something inside me shift, not anger, not shock, clarity. After Mom left, slamming the door hard enough to shake the frame, I stood in the silence she always pretended was my fault. Then I walked to my desk, opened the drawer, and pulled out the envelope I had kept hidden for 8 months. My Colorado bar admission letter. My name printed clean and sharp across the top. I whispered it out loud, steadying myself. Attorney Sienna Rowe. Grandpa had known. Jonah suspected. My family never asked. I turned on the lamp and spread my notes across the desk. Court filings, timestamps, emails, threats. They formed a pattern even Adrian could not spin into innocence. I drafted a counter-petition for fraud and bad faith litigation. Then, a motion to enforce Clause 14. Then, a motion to freeze all trust distributions until the court hearing. Each document tightened the noose they had woven for themselves. At midnight, I practiced my opening argument in front of the bathroom mirror. My voice cracked the first time, then steadied on the second, then sharpened on the third. I learned where to pause, where to press, where to let silence work for me instead of against me. When the alarm rang at 5, I was already dressed. I grabbed my worn briefcase and stood at the door. "You can do this," I whispered, not as comfort, but as fact. Outside, the Denver morning was still dark. I stepped into it anyway. The courtroom was already tense when Judge Kimberly Vaughn took her seat. Adrian stood first, polished and rehearsed. "Your Honor, we are here regarding the conservatorship petition filed by Marisol and Calvin Rowe." Judge Vaughn lifted a hand. "And counsel for the respondent, I rose. Your Honor, I am counsel, licensed in the state of Colorado." A ripple moved through the room. Evan's jaw dropped. Mom inhaled sharply. Adrian blinked twice, recalibrating. Judge Vaughn nodded. "Proceed, Ms. Rowe." I stepped forward, placing my first folder on the podium. Exhibit a Section 14 of the Leonard Rowe Trust. This clause activates only when a beneficiary knowingly acts in bad faith to seize another's designated share without medical or legal evidence. I handed copies to the clerk. Adrian's voice tightened. "The family had concerns expressed," I interrupted. "Before any evaluation, documented in emails threatening legal action if I refused to surrender control." Judge Vaughn eyed him. "Is that accurate?" Mr. Keen Adrian hesitated. That was enough. I opened the second folder. Exhibit B-A Forensic Review of the amendment submitted by the petitioners. The signature was digitally traced. The notary seal belongs to a woman who retired 8 years before the signed date. The paper stock was manufactured in the year 2023. I laid Alvin Mercer's affidavit beside it. Mom whispered, "This is not what it looks like." "It is exactly what it looks like," I said. Finally, the third folder. Exhibit C, Financial Motive. I listed the facts carefully. Evan Rowe's dissolved startup with a judgment exceeding $410,000. The Rowe home in Aurora in pre-foreclosure for more than $560,000. Retirement accounts liquidated following a margin call. Judge Vaughn folded her hands. Do the petitioners have an explanation? No one answered. Very well, she said. The petition for conservatorship is dismissed with prejudice. The court finds bad faith. Clause 14 will be enforced. The petitioners forfeit their trust shares, which will be transferred to the secondary beneficiary plan established by Mr. Leonard Rowe. Sanctions of $12,000 are imposed. Her gavel struck once. A clean, final sound. I closed my briefcase. No victory shout. No glance backward. Just breath. Then the door. The fallout came quietly. Evan filed for bankruptcy within weeks. My parents left their house in Aurora before the bank could take it, moving into a small apartment in Lakewood. None of it surprised me anymore. What mattered was what came next. I used roughly $420,000 from my share to establish the Leonard Rowe First Generation Scholarship Fund. At the first ceremony, 5 students stood beside me, tired eyes, work-worn hands, hopeful in ways I remembered too well. One of them whispered, "Thank you. No one in my family ever believed in school." I smiled, hearing Grandpa's voice in the back of my mind. Paper trails protect the people no one protects. Later that night, an email from Mom appeared in my inbox. "I hope you are well. Things became complicated. We never meant for it to go this far." I typed back only 2 sentences. "Thank you for your message. I wish you the best. No anger. No invitation." Back at my condo, I placed Grandpa's photo on my desk, the same one Evan once used for his performance online. I touched the frame lightly. "Your legacy is safe," I said. "If you have ever had to rebuild from family betrayal, stay with this story. There are more voices like ours out there, and I am not done telling them."